Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is alignment and the gift of giving ourselves the permission to live in alignment with the calling of our soul, with our deepest spirit and the vitality and fulfillment that freedom can bring. So before we get started, let's take a moment or two. Oh, good morning, Rosalind. Welcome, welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. And before we get started talking about alignment, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any negativity, tension, stress. And let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, and the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all these sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that is the foundation of all your experience of life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today we are talking about alignment. And as is so frequently the case, this conversation is coming from an interaction that I had yesterday with a client who is very entrepreneurial and has a very successful business, but was looking at launching some other businesses. And it was really interesting because when this person spoke about the other ventures that they were engaged with, there was good energy around it. They had confidence around it and some interest, but there was kind of a pull, like a weight to it. It felt kind of more like an anchor than like wings. And then we started talking about this other business, which is really very much built around their deep, deep, deep passion. And we talked about how we could expand it. And because they have a successful business as it is, we talked about how they could enhance it and evolve it to be something that supports them even better and also supports the lifestyle that they're looking to have, using this as a foundation to mold and model and then expand it into something that feeds them on a whole bunch of levels, that gives them flexibility to travel and have the lifestyle that they want in, a nomadic kind of lifestyle. And it was night and day to see the contrast between the energy and enthusiasm that this person had around the evolution of this one business that is really seated in their deepest passion versus these other interests that were not in as great an alignment with their delight. And we often make choices believing that they're the better choice because it's what we should do. Like it's a more accepted choice, or it's a more popular choice, or in a certain realm it may look like it's a more practical choice based on conventional standards. But the thing is, with this person, although these other choices had merit and potential, they didn't have the juice. And so the thing is that when we went where the juice was, it was like fireworks for this person. They were so excited, and we were generating these incredible ideas, and their response after our conversation was, my heart hasn't felt so happy in years. And like, this is my real passion. And to give ourselves permission to have our passion and to find a way to make that manifest, that is really the fulfillment of our purpose. When we, at least that's what I believe, that when we follow our passion, and I don't mean in an ungrounded way, but when your heart and soul is all about something, to allow yourself to be immersed in that is providing the energy and the strength and the resilience to be able to weather the difficulties that you might encounter. When you're passionate about something and you're driven by the passion of that, then when the inevitable challenges present themselves, you're going to have a greater will to surmount them, to address them, to move through them. And it's interesting, I experienced this also with a family member who's been experiencing, some who has a very definitive passion, and up until now they haven't really taken the step to pursue that passion based, for all kinds of reasons. And they just made the commitment, made the decision. And the energy of that is just so vitalizing, so expansive and life affirming. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to witness in both these people, to have the experience with both of them of their gifting themselves that permission to pursue something that is deeply meaningful personally. And I think that when we do that, when we commit, the universe supports us in that. Opportunities present themselves. There's a greater sense of personal confidence and assurance, and because of that alignment, it makes sense, doesn't it, that when we're aligned, we have a greater strength, we have a greater presence, we have a greater resilience when we are in alignment with our core values, our soul's calling, and many of us don't give ourselves permission to have these pursuits because we have a lot of stories about how it's not practical or it's not socially acceptable. You know, people might be telling you you're crazy or that's not a good path, or, you know, people will give you all kinds of feedback. And what we get to do, and this is an important thing, I think, is to find people who can be cheerleaders for you, and not just in a I want to say in an airy fairy way, not in an airy fairy way, but in a way that, and I know that that's not the greatest term, I apologize for it, but in an ungrounded way, but in a way that enables, that helps hold the vision. You know, when I first came up with the my vision for the eco park, I was sharing it with different people, and I had people tell me, "You're never going to do that." And I, fortunately, I was like, "Well, you watch me." And fortunately, I was able not to be crushed by somebody. We've all encountered dream crushers, right? The people that are the folks who are going to tell you what's not possible, what won't work. And some of us become too susceptible to the dream crushers, and then allow ourselves to stop before we ever get started. And you know, it's interesting to, if I look back on my history, I wanted to go to art school. My parents were like, "No way, you're not going to art school. You know, you're gonna do something academic. You can't make a living as an artist." And, you know, like that kind of rationality, you can't make a living as an artist. There are artists who make a good living. But just that belief, you can't make a living as an artist. You're gonna do something more conventional. I went to school. I was very lost. I really didn't have direction, and I ended up dropping out and becoming a glass blower for a while, because again, this the art and beauty is a passion for me. And then when I decided I wanted to go back to school and I wanted to go to art school, this wasn't consciously strategized, but when I wanted to go back to school and I wanted to go to art school, my parents were all excited that I wanted to go back to school. So that was okay, you know, but it took going left to go right in a way, which is kind of my history. But what happened was I went to art school, and while it was very challenging, it was and torturous at times, it was heaven for me in so many ways to go back to school and be, you know, to be in this marvelous playground, and be able to do all these things and play with all these wonderful mediums and explore and be creative. And creativity is one of my foundational values. Like, it, without creativity, I wouldn't be alive. I wouldn't be able to take the next breath without beauty and creativity. And so um it's I ended up then also I went into sales after that, right? Because I'd been taught that you can't make a living as an artist. And then I went back to school again for computer animation and multimedia, and ended up going into teaching graphic software and design, and it was great. It was great for a bunch of years, and I got a lot of fulfillment out of it, and it met a whole lot of my desires. And now with the work that I do, I've always been interested in consciousness and how the mind works, and it's always been a deep passion, and now I'm doing that, and it feels really enriching and creative um and meaningful. And so your soul is going to guide you, and particularly if you let it. For me to be able to go back to school the second time, my life had to be in such crisis before I would give myself permission to follow my heart. I was suicidal. I had decided where I was going to kill myself. And it took for me such an extreme to be able to say, yo, girl, you need to do something that is going to give you a sense of fulfillment and purpose. And I gave myself permission to follow something that I was enlivened by. And while that time at school was, again, really tough, it was some of the best time of my life, because I was immersed in learning all this wonderful stuff that I was so excited about. It was wonderful. It was really, really wonderful. And it brought me back to life. Good morning, good evening, Gia. Welcome, welcome. So good to have you joining us. We're talking about alignment and how difficult sometimes it is for us to give ourselves permission to really, really acknowledge and follow the calling of our heart and soul. And the thing, I mean, I had to get to a crisis point before I would give myself permission, or I had to create crises in my life before I would give myself permission. And I encourage us all to maybe not have to get to that point of desperation where our soul is saying, please do this. It'll start as a whisper, and then maybe if we don't listen, the surrounding circumstances can become more and more and more challenging until we acquiesce, until we give ourselves that permission to really find the alignment, to honor who we are. And somebody shared a quote with me yesterday, or I read it in a book. It was about being different. And oh, you know what? Here, I think I actually have it. I want to share it. It's great. From this book that I'm reading called The Creative Act, that was introduced to me by one of my clients. And here it is. Our work embodies a higher purpose. Whether we know it or not, we are a conduit for the universe. Material is allowed through us. If we are a clear channel, our intention reflects the intention of the cosmos. And we can extrapolate on that to say our intention reflects the intention of our soul. One of the things that I say and am living into more and more is that who I am is life expressing itself through this unique vehicle. And if life is expressing itself through this vehicle, life is plucking on the heartstrings, the soul strings, to develop this beautiful soul song that is uniquely tailored to each and every one of us. And when we allow that heart song to emerge in life, we are being a channel for life's expression. And in that, there's deep satisfaction. There's deep a sense of joy, a sense of alignment, of rightness, of when we're aligned, we have a greater sense of wholeness because we're in tune with our own unique frequency. We're attuned to the call of our soul. And we each came here as I say, and it may or may not be true, it might not, but this is how I imagine things to be, is that we came here for our own unique expression. And we're part of this grand symphony. You know, we're all instruments within this grand symphony. And we each have our own tone and our own timbre. And when we are aligned, it's like we're a tuned instrument, right? And so many of us, myself certainly included, have spent years and years of our lives out of tune, you know, trying to find a way to tune ourselves. And that reminds me of a beautiful, beautiful session I had yesterday with one of my clients who was present to feeling broken, and just this seemingly ceaseless or endless mission to fix themselves. And that resonates so deeply for me, having felt broken for so much of my life and pursuing being fixed. And I brought up, I have to look up the name so that I say it properly to you. You may have heard about this wonderful Japanese art. It's called kintsugi, and it's taking something that's broken, like a broken bowl, and mending it with resin that is embedded with gold. And so when these pieces come together, even if there are missing pieces, those spaces are filled with this resin, with gold. And in putting these pieces back together, the bowl has been not only resurrected, but beautified and strengthened with all this resin also. And it was so fascinating because in the beginning of the session, before this person even said what they were saying, they were talking about brokenness. Before they came up with the image, I had looked up kintsugi. And then they said the image that they had was of this beautiful ceramic vase that was broken into a million pieces. And through the course of the session, they were able to repair this vase and see the beauty of it, and see how it was really quite beautiful, that it wasn't broken and devastated, but that in its new resurrected form, it had all this beauty and a glow from within. So alignment does that for us. As we become more deeply aligned with ourselves, there's great healing that takes place. You know, here, when we imagine ourselves as broken, we're not being with where we are. and we're not recognizing that brokenness is part of what is creating the beauty of who we are as we reassemble it, as we heal from it. And as I'm thinking of it, I can recognize that alignment is relinquishing resistance, no longer resisting what is, no longer resisting who we are and how we've come to that place. There was a lot of grieving. Excuse me. There was a lot of grieving in the process of recognizing this vase and beginning to put it together, and grief over the fact that it had ever gotten to that point in the first place, and that it was unnecessary for all that suffering and pain. And then it was able to begin healing. So Rosalind says, I spent many years relying on my partner to create our life, which was his version, but not mine. There was no room for mine. Wow, Rosalind, I understand that. I think so many of us live our lives to please others, and we rely on others to direct us or to help shape us. And when we all, and especially as women, we often defer to other people's intentions, ideas, preferences. And then we wake up and recognize, oh my gosh, I'm so out of alignment. I don't even know who I am anymore. And then finding that, creating those, reconstructing those things is so important. So sweet Gia. Gia says, loving this conversation. Bring it on, Mira. I didn't want to write to interrupt you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to have to call it a morning. I so appreciate being with you for these conversations. They enrich me as well, I must say. And so I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to check out all the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And until next time.